Okay, we'll continue with Federalist number 8. This is going to be part 7. Notice I changed the map on you. This is the map of the upper part of United States at the time of the Revolution. As you can see, this is Connecticut. This state is Rhode Island. It's Massachusetts. Vermont was not a state yet. That's New Hampshire. And this is going to be state of Maine later on, but it's part of Massachusetts right now. State of New York. So I'll continue with the text. Small paragraph. The army under such circumstances may usefully aid the magistrate to suppress a small faction or an occasional mob or insurrection, but it will be unable to enforce encroachments against the united efforts of the great body of the people. Remember in the previous paragraph, when you don't have a huge military, and also people are in the habit of reminding the leaders that they will not be put under the boots of the military. They will respect the military, but they will not allow the military to dominate them. In this case, people are free-spirited. They appreciate their freedoms. They watch to make sure that nobody denies them that. They are truly great citizens, and they are, in his words, he said, spirit of jealous acquiescence is a necessary evil, and stand ready to resist the power which they suppose may be exerted to the prejudice of their rights. Here, when he says to the prejudice of their rights, if there is something that is going to infringe on their rights, okay, not allow them to enjoy their rights and freedoms, then they'll be watchful. When he says jealous, that's what he means. He means they're going to be watchful, they'll be careful. And in this case, when people are like that, he says the army under such circumstances may usefully aid the magistrate to suppress a small faction or an occasional mob or insurrection, but it will be unable to enforce encroachments against the united efforts of the great body of the people. In other words, even if the army wants to get out of hand and do something that they're not supposed to, people can stop them. People will rise up and put the army in its place. People will not be treated like second-class citizens and servants of the military. But look what he says in the next paragraph, which is very important. In a country in the predicament last described, the contrary of all this happens. The perpetual menacing of danger obliges the government to be always prepared to repel it. Its armies must be numerous enough for instant defense. The continual necessity for their services enhances the importance of the soldier and proportionately degrades the condition of the citizen. It says when you are in a situation when you have constant war, let's say if New Hampshire and Massachusetts don't get along, or Connecticut and Massachusetts don't get along, if you're going to be in constant state of war, you'll always have to have military ready. Always have to have training, always have to have your military ready for the next attack. And he says in this case, you start gradually to put the army, put the military on a pedestal. You look at them like they are the first-class citizens. They are better than you because they're going to keep you safe. And he says this is very dangerous because then you as a citizen become a second-class person in that country or in that state. Again, he's saying if we unite, okay, up and down the coast, if we all unite, we won't have to have a big standing army to always watch for the next state attacking. You'll have minimal number of soldiers, minimal number of military people to just watch to the west and make sure nobody attacks you from the west. But if you don't, let's say you're New York and Connecticut, you have problems over here. If you don't get along, you'll have soldiers, military people here. Connecticut will have military people here. And you, excuse me, you'll constantly be in a state of war. And that is not good because just like the countries of Europe, it will drag you to think that you're a second-class citizen, to think that your leader or leaders are whatever they say is right. You have to obey them, and you will start allowing a tyrant or demagogue or demagogues or absolute monarchs rule over you. And it says the continual necessity for their services enhances the importance of the soldier and proportionally degrades the condition of the citizen. You as a citizen, you become degraded because a soldier's place gets enhanced. A soldier is looked up to, but you as a citizen become somebody that is not being looked up to. The military state becomes elevated above the civil. Look at the countries around the world that the military is taken over and citizens cannot do anything. Look at right now what's going on in Myanmar, the former Burma. What is sad is that the military is in power. They've got a former Nobel Prize Peace winner as supposedly their political leader. So she, unfortunately, unwittingly, is giving them cover, and they're not doing anything on that genocide that's happening inside the country. And you can just multiply that by hundreds. There's hundreds of cases like that. The inhabitants of the territories, often the theater of war, are unavoidably subjected to frequent infringements of their rights. There's always infringement on your rights. In other words, they step on your rights. Again, because they say you're in a state of war or we're going to be invaded, so you better be quiet. And he continues, which serve to weaken their sense of those rights, and by degrees the people are brought to consider the soldiery not only as their protector, but as their superiors. This is the scary part. This is the part that they say, stay quiet. We are in an emergency. Follow what he says soldiery, what he's talking about the military, the army, the soldiers. They'll take care of you, so you just listen to them, and by degrees the people are brought to consider the soldiery not only their protectors, but as their superiors. Instead of thinking as the soldiers as people who, in times of emergency, they defend them, but they start thinking of them as their superiors. And this is the worst thing that can happen in any republic, in any country. He continues, the transition from this disposition to that of considering them masters is neither remote nor difficult. At first, you elevate them, you say, well, they're going to protect us for a short time. If you're not watchful, after a while, they consider themselves to be superior to you. And before too long, they'll think they are the masters. Neither remote nor difficult means it's not going to take them too long to consider themselves as the masters, and it won't be too difficult for them to get to think that. It continues, but it is very difficult to prevail upon a people under such impressions to make a bold or effectual resistance to usurpations supported by the military power. And when you get used to this situation, when you feel like soldiers are superior to you and gradually are becoming your masters and you're okay with it, you will soon be run by military power, and you will be in perpetual state of serfdom, second-class citizen, being ruled and having nothing to say about it. So he's reminding us of that. Okay, we will continue in the next video.